Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nick Slavic. I am the proprietor of the Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration Company, a company up in New Prague, Minnesota. I'm also the host of a weekly Facebook Live show called Ask a Painter, where pros and homeowners write in. They can give me topic suggestions, and I answer all everybody's painting and decorating questions live, usually every Friday morning. But today, I'm representing the Painting and Decorating Contractors of America, the PDCA, in a segment that they call Live in the Field Training. They get a whole bunch of pros, craftsmen, to go onto Facebook Live, broadcast from their job sites, from their offices, anywhere else, and do some live in the field training for other contractors. So this has been a really interesting thing. I love getting the feedback from this. Today, specifically, we're going to be talking about the Graco 395 air-assisted airless. And before we go any farther, I should mention that, especially in my Ask a Painter segments, the more feedback you guys give, the more questions you write in during this live stream, the better this will be. The interaction between contractors and homeowners and all this other professionals on here really makes these shows special. So you will not be interrupting me at all. Write your comments or questions in the section here, and I will, after I go through a little bit of this, hopefully that will answer a few of your questions. I'll go back and scroll through and take care of any comments, concerns that you guys have. So today we are at a fully prepped cabinet site that I've been working on for about a day or two here. We have cleaned these cabinets, we've prepped them, we have primed them with oil primer, we've sanded them down again, we've tack ragged them off, we've shop vacked them off, filled any little defects that we found, and now we are ready to spray again. And this is where my Graco 395 air-assisted airless comes in. Now, I should mention a couple things about my background, and hopefully this will help you guys understand a little bit more where I'm coming from here. I've been a contractor, a craftsman for more than 22 years now. I grew up in a painting company that did nothing but brush and ladder work, and still that's the mainstay of my work. But I like to learn from the past. I like to apply what's cutting edge and what's new and kind of blend the two together, because I don't believe there's one philosophy that's sort of a coverall that will solve all the problems. I do a lot of this on-site stuff, but I also have a state-of-the-art finishing facility where I take care of doors, drawers, furniture, windows, millwork, things like that. So hopefully that'll let you understand a little bit more where I'm coming from when I talk about this. There are tons of YouTube videos, tons of articles written about air-assisted airless sprayers, HVLPs, all sorts of stuff, conventional compressed air sprayers. This is not going to be a very technical one. I'll show you how I use it, how to quickly adjust it, how to quickly put it to use in the field, but really I want to talk about the philosophy. Where you are as a contractor, should you even be considering one of these, or should you have considered one of these 10, 20 years in the past? Like I said, I was never taught how to spray. I came up on my own doing brushwork. I used to finish all these cabinets, millwork, everything by hand. Customers of mine really requested a sprayed finish, so bought my first sprayer and just got to work. I experimented in my shop over the years, and still, minus the handy Graco rep now and then, I've really got no training on a sprayer. Everything has been trial and error and learned by stuff in the field. Now, when I spray, I do fine furniture, I do fine cabinet finishes, millwork finishes on site in my shop, but I also do cutting edge industrial elastomerics on pole barns and tin sheds up here in commercial and industrial settings. So I really like to have a breadth and width and have a little bit of experience in all this stuff. So another one of my philosophies is that I don't like fiddling with gear a lot. I like being in the field with my guys, my full brood of apprentices. I like getting stuff done. I like producing a lot of work. So I do not want to spend days and hours and this every day in the shop or in the field maintaining this equipment. So when I buy something, I always buy a very, very high quality something and do the minimum amount of maintenance, care, and everything, and rely on the product's quality to take it from there. And this philosophy has served me very well for about 10 years now. I buy high quality tools and equipment, and they take very little care as long as you do a basic standard of care. Another one of my philosophies, great gear should work great, so just leave it be. So if you're on Craigslist buying used stuff, off-brand stuff, expect to spend a lot of time with it. If you buy very high quality stuff from all the main companies that we know, you're going to have a good experience with all that stuff. So, like I said, a minimum level of maintenance when you're talking about spray equipment. I am very, very diligent. The second I'm done using a sprayer, it gets fully cleaned out. The filters come out, I run a whole bunch of either water or thinner through it many, many times, cycle it through, sometimes up to 5 or 10 gallons of each, just to get it clean. I get it crystal sparkling clear coming out of that, both the gun and the pump itself. And then, you know, I either leave thinner in it or I put a little pump armor in there or something like that. But I am very, very diligent. Now, a lot of guys like to break down stuff. They like to repack. They like to do this and that. I have never repacked one of my sprayers. I think I have 4 or 5 now. I think it's 5 with the air-assisted airless now. But I have never had to repack a sprayer. All of them have worked perfectly, without fault, for almost 10 years now. But I'm a stickler for that immediate cleaning and care, and the second you're done with something, everything gets perfectly cleaned out. So another one of my big philosophies, hopefully this will help in this process as well, is that I am a firm believer in labor over liabilities. Any problem, both personal and professional, that I come across, I always try to solve it with labor, effort, and elbow grease first. If I cannot solve it, or I think I've solved it to a certain extent, then I will take on a liability, which basically means buying something. So I'm always skeptical when you hear somebody say, I'm having this problem, and everybody recommends, go buy this, go do this. I am very skeptical of that sort of thing. I want to exhaust every other free, cheap, and quick alternative first before I do that. Now, when we talk about spraying, I've been spraying for about 10 years now, on and off, and I have a odd complement of I have 2 used airless machines, 1 new airless machine, 1 new HVLP, and 2 HVLPs that are old ancient things. A lot of this stuff, the stuff that I bought new, was things that I needed in my production setting. A lot of the stuff that was old was, you know, a lot of retired painters getting out of the business. You know, those super anal retentive kind of guys that have perfectly clean, maintained gear, and you can buy that stuff for almost nothing. So I have a good blend of both. So I have experience with machines that are up to 30 years old and machines that are a week old. So somewhere in there that lies. Let's see what else I forgot here. So basically, we're going to talk about the 395 air-assisted airless today. I'm going to kind of walk you through what exactly an air-assisted airless is here. Pop this guy down. Okay, so the basic idea between this machine, the air-assisted airless, is it is a combination of an HVLP and a traditional airless. You put those two together and you get this, the air-assisted airless. You have a standard conventional pump here, an airless pump, with the addition of a air compressor down here. And the benefit of that is, especially with fine finishing, the airless, you're going to pump a very high volume of paint at a very high pressure onto the substrate. And when you're doing industrial buildings, you know, block outside, large square footage of areas, you really want that. That's a production machine. With the HVLP, you're puffing a high volume at a low pressure, and it mixes with a little bit of air at the end to atomize and give you a little bit of extra fine finish. It atomizes the finish better. So this guy has a conventional airless pump to get it up to a certain level. It pumps it through the line to the gun, and then at the very end it adds a puff of air just like the HVLP. And you can see I have a standard fine finish tip in here, and then there's 4 little ports. You can see the 2 little black lines at the bottom here and at the top. That gives it a little extra puff of air right at the end. Now the benefit of a machine like this is that you can pump a lower volume of paint through there. Instead of, you know, 2,000 psi or 1,800 psi, I'll show you later, I have mine down to 1,000 or 1,200, and the addition of that air atomizes it right at the end, and it gives you a much finer finish. Now, I should mention this, that if you're considering buying something like this, I think you should really have experience with finishing previously. I have, like I said, I have 2 old Wagner cap spray units. I have this HVLP. This particular airless is the 390 STS. This thing has been in service as long as I've been in service. It's 22, 23 years old now, I believe, and it was in use probably a little bit before even I was painting. But this machine, I have never done anything with. Perfectly clean, perfectly maintained on the inside, although it doesn't look great on the outside. It works absolutely perfectly. And as a matter of fact, with these cabinets here, I still spray all my oil primers with this particular machine. So with this project, what you're seeing right now is the product of this 390 STS right here, a 22-year-old at least sprayer. So I have not converted over my new 395 to oils yet. I'm concentrating on working out variables right now. There's many points of adjustment. Obviously, you have the knob here for the airless control. This has a digital readout here. Turn it on just airless mode there, or excuse me, airless mode there. Plug it in. So yeah, you have your standard airless, and certainly you can use a machine like this for standard airless painting, but it would be a complete waste of time. There is a air compressor, obviously, where you can adjust the main pressure here. You can pump it up a little bit. You can hear the compressor come on, and it's got the dial indicator here. And this is great for a guy like me who really likes to fine tune and keep records of finishes. For every job like this I have a log of what tips, what airless pressure, what air assisted, what compressor pressure, things like that to use too. Now, there is also adjustments on the gun itself. This will adjust the volume of air coming through here. And also, you know, obviously you can adjust the tips as well. Now, this is my second kitchen with this particular machine. First of all, very impressed, but I want to work out variables. I don't want to be guessing at this. So for the time being, I'm using one tip. I am going to use one air setting on the gun. I'm going to leave this knob down here in its state. I'm going to use one tip. I just got a kind of medium of the road finish tip. And I will be messing with the air pressure and the airless pressure. You know, trying to work out the variables. Once I feel I have exhausted every possible combination of high pressure, low pressure, lower pressure airless, higher pressure air, you know, higher pressure airless, lower pressure air, then I will start messing with the tips and stuff. But if you start messing with all the variables right away, you're gonna just not really know what you're doing. You're gonna be treading over ground that you don't really can take anything valuable from. So I am going to put this up here. Now, I'm going to show you how to quickly put this into service, but before I do, I should mention that where I am in my finishing. Now, like I said, I've been doing finishes for 22 years, spraying for about 10. This is sample cabinet door that I give to my homeowners. This cabinet door is done with a 22-year-old sprayer, using conventional, you know, oil primers, things like that. Benjamin Moore Advanced Top Coat. Once you've reached this level, and I've been doing this level of finishes for about 10 years now, I felt like I needed to continually improve. And like my philosophy before of labor over liabilities, I felt that I have used every bit of knowledge, muscle strength, memory to get a good finish. Now I think I needed a machine to sort of keep up with me in that regard. So that's why I looked into the 395 air-assisted airless. And yeah, I'll show you a few things here, putting it into service, and then the finish. Get this guy on here. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to show you the typical airless setup that I use, and I actually just used on this job. I'll show you through, you know, just I'll lay a couple lines down on this sheet of paper here, just so you can compare it to what the air assisted does. Okay, so you can see pretty clearly that this is a low pressure. It has tails on it right here. This is a standard, you know, Zinsser cover stain oil primer. And everybody knows, probably watching here, that you basically adjust it till the tails are gone, and that's, you want to use the lowest operating pressure you can while getting rid of the tails. So I'll adjust the pump pressure up here. Okay, so basic airless operation. You work it till the tails are gone at the lowest possible setting. Now, this is about 1800 to 2000 PSI right here. This is great. But when you get into these intricate areas, you know, like back in the corners of these cabinets, and you got to get all 4 edges here, if you start going to town with an airless, if you are not skilled at it, you will completely cover that cabinet with stuff, and it will just start running and sagging down. Now, the biggest benefit of the air-assisted airless so far is that flexibility that it gives you. It atomizes a much lower pressure of paint into a finer finish. So what normally would take 1800 psi would now only take maybe 1200 or 1000. And so it gives you a little more flexibility, a little more time to apply that fine finish, get in the nooks and crannies, work it around to get a nice even finish. So basically what we do here, and I'll take you down again, I'll show you how to put this guy into service. Okay, so I have my enamel, my Benjamin Moore Advance, already running through the pump. It's all the way up to the gun. Basically, I will adjust the pressure here. I found that somewhere between about 1000 and 1200, and I'll put it on airless mode right for now. And I'll show you what to look for before you turn on the air compressor. Okay, so basically you can see I worked it up till you start getting tails. I found that for this particular enamel, in this color, it's about 12 to 1300 and the tails disappear. Now, you do not want the tails to disappear. You want it just to the point where they're about to disappear, like here, and then you turn on the air compressor. The air compressor takes it from there. If you atomize the paint through the airless system high enough where the tails disappear, you're basically negating the air compressor. Then you're pumping a bunch of air over an atomized finish, and the benefits of a 395 air-assisted airless won't be seen. So now I will adjust. See the air compressor. I'll turn on the airless mode, or the air-assisted airless. Okay, so right now you can see we're at about 10 psi. There is a great chart down here to at least get you some standard parameters. For this particular one, we're using an enamel down here. It gives you a tip size, a fluid setting, and then an air setting. I've experimented pretty heavily with this to try to dial in at least this. Now, I'm using a hybrid enamel, so I don't know if it changes with that, but I think these are great starting guidelines. If nothing else, it shows you the difference between, you know, a clear oil or water base versus that, and there's a pretty drastic difference, sometimes even you know, 3 or 4 times the amount of pressure in there. So okay, I'm gonna lay a pass down with 10 psi, and then I'll show you at full working strength. Okay, so 10 psi, you can see the atomization different between this one and this one here. Already the finish is being atomized, but obviously it's not shooting enough air through there. I found with this particular machine, this particular you know, temperature, enamel setting, I've been going about 30 psi on the air. I actually tried a whole bunch of cabinet doors, about 20 of them in my shop this morning with 20 to try to see how low I could get the pressure. But in some areas you would kind of get the tiniest bit of orange peel. It leveled out, but still not as good as when you do, you know, somewhere between 27 and 30 psi. So I will pump this thing up to 30 psi and I'll lay down another stripe for you. Okay, so at this point, it's got a beautiful finish. The first thing you'll notice about like an air-assisted airless is that it's a very delicate machine. The gun itself The gun itself is very, very lightweight, fits to the hand beautifully, and with the skinnier hoses, fluid hoses, you really have flexibility around to get into areas, and it's a very, very great gun. I wish more guns had even just the profile of this one here. So let me see here. I have to spray this island here. I'll lay down a little top coat for you guys on this. Give me 30 seconds here to get set up, and then I will go through and ask any questions or answer any questions here for you guys. Okay, so you can see I made multiple passes in some areas where I thought maybe it was a little light. That would be almost an impossibility with conventional airless. You would basically get one shot to go around. That's why I've been always using the sort of rainbow technique where you work through the piece with one passes this way and that way to get there. But this machine gives you a great, you know, the ability to sort of work into, especially when you have, you know, little areas like this around here, you can really work the enamel into there. It gives you a little more flexibility. So let's set this up again here for you. Get rid of my respirator, and then I can answer a few questions for you guys. Okay, well, maybe I should go through this first. My impression so far, number one, like I mentioned, the flexibility and the time that a piece of machinery like this gives you to apply fine finish. You're doing a super high quality finish, but you have a little more time to work it in around there like that. Having come from a pure airless background, I really had to book with an airless sprayer. And if you sort of missed an area and all around it was finished, sometimes you just had to, you know, wait for everything to tack up and hit it later. This you can sort of... All right, sorry about that, contractor calling. Let's see. This is a very high quality machine. I should mention that I have, you know, in my whole cadre of sprayers, all of them are very, very high quality, but you know, think of the difference between a Chevy and an Aston Martin. Both will get you to work probably at about the same time, but one feels different and it does different things for you in that time between getting there. So the feel, the quality, my experience with it in the couple kitchens I've done, it's been a very good thing. Now, having said that, I have not exhausted all of the variables on this thing yet. The biggest thing that stands out to me, sort of the low-hanging fruit, is that flexibility, that time it gives you for something like that. In the next year or two, I know that there will be other sort of milestones along the way. I'm not trying to tackle all those now. Other things will sort of be revealed to me by using this machine. But like I said, I'm working with one variable at a time to work out. So when I do get done in the next year or two using this machine through all these different projects, I will know the full breadth and width of a piece of machinery like this. Also, you know, like I mentioned, if you feel like you cannot physically take your fine finishes any farther with any more effort, knowledge, labor, skill, experience, to me, this is the time to spend a little money. And for me, that was sort of the next step for me. And yeah, I've already seen a little bit of benefit in, you know, the last couple kitchens I've done are with oak, so it's hard to compare to a lot of the maple samples and stuff I've had before. But in the shop, in my experiments, it's a very, very high quality finish. And then, you know, like I mentioned before too, the labor versus liability things, how I always try to use effort. At this finish, when you're producing finishes like on this sample cabinet door here, you can only make incremental change here. My finishing is not going to be twice as good as it is right now a year from now. I'm probably going to make 5% incremental jumps, and like I said, once I've exhausted sort of the labor, the experience, stuff like that, then I switch to something like this and see if that will jump it to the next level. And I will slowly tiptoe through that, make sure I don't miss anything. Beyond that, that is about it. I'm going to scroll through, see what questions you guys have for me. I appreciate all you guys tuning in for this. All right, let's see here. John, how much you charge to finish cabinets from scratch, stain, and pigmented? I don't discuss costs. It's going to be different from everybody. I know that's a stock answer, but for me, more of kind of a gossipy question than a standard question. It won't really tell you how much. You know, I'm more interested in the quality of a finish and charge what you can for it than price per square footage or things like that. As a matter of fact, I don't have any set square footage prices for my business. So every time when I come into a kitchen, I just look around. You have to take into account the finish that's on there now, what they want it to go, and what type of stuff they want. I know that I always get into very hot debates between lacquer guys, and I'm sort of an oil varnish guy, and especially with enamels, I'm a firm believer in true oils, 100% acrylics, or the hybrids, which are now my favorite because it gives you that traditional finish. So it's a very interesting question. It's to see what other people charge, but honestly, you know, there are much more helpful questions that we could get to here. So scrolling through. Joe, what made you switch from traditional oil finish to hybrid from Benjamin Moore? I still use both. I really like the benefits to the homeowners. And here's again, hopefully this will help you understand why I do what I do. I have a question that I ask myself whenever a new product comes out, a new machine comes out, or a new process is discovered. Is it better for the homeowner, or is it better for you as the contractor? Now, my goal is to get both of those good. I want it to be good for me, and I want it to be good for the homeowner. When a hybrid enamel comes out, if it will maintain the quality of finishes that I do with traditional oils, I will use it as long as there is that benefit to the homeowner. Obviously, there's a longer drying time with oils and these hybrids, which is not good for me, but it's so much better for the homeowner in the long run that I'm willing to wait a little bit in between coats and stuff there. So actually, Joe, I still use traditional oils. I love them. And this guy here, my favorite, Satin Black Impervo, stock from the can. This is one of the most beautiful finishes you'll ever find, and this was done as well with a 22, 23-year-old sprayer over an old cabinet. So I am still a firm believer in oils. I use them whenever I can, but when a hybrid comes out, it's not only do I maintain the standards of a true traditional oil finish, it's a little more easy to live with for the homeowners, for the smell and stuff like that. So as long as the finish is sandable and dries very hard, I'll be working with it. So, but thanks for the question, Joe. Caesar, can it spray epoxy resins for bathtub finishing? I would imagine that you would just have to atomize the, you would have to turn up the pressure a little bit, and you would have to crank up the pure airless side a little more. It does not give a recommendation for that, but I'm sure that if you work with it for a little bit, you could probably get it going. The other thing that I found when using my the air-assisted airless is even for airless, I always keep a paintbrush or a toothbrush in my pocket here to just get the stuff that gums up on the tip there. I've noticed that with the addition of compressed air, it tends to accumulate even more stuff than a traditional airless sprayer would. And because it's at a lower pressure with a standard airless sprayer, sometimes the pressure will overcome a lot of that stuff and just kind of blow by it. With this, it's a little more delicate. You can see a degradation of the fan pattern if you don't keep this clean. So, you know, every 10 or 15 minutes when I'm in the shop, you know, maybe every 10 cabinet doors, I just give it a quick thing, you know, rinse it out water, hit it again, and go go there. And I assume that if you're doing an epoxy, you would have to take some extra precautions with this machine to keep that delicate tip with all the air orifices clean. Caesar, if you do spray with it, I'd like to hear your recommendations here. Oh, Joe, how are you protecting your phone from overspray? One of the benefits of this machine is barely any overspray. Now, with my standard 22, 23-year-old airless sprayers, I have very, very minimal overspray. And in fact, I have this room closed off here in a very small section. After I get done with a coat on these cabinet boxes, there's almost nothing in the air. As a matter of fact, when I cracked a window after the first coat, nothing rushed outside from in here. So basically, even with a 22, 23-year-old airless sprayer, you don't get any overspray if you dial it in right. Now with this air-assisted airless, it's almost nothing. If it wasn't such a risky proposition, I bet you could probably not even plastic this room off and just do the paper on the floor and this, and you probably would not affect the rooms on the outside here. So I would imagine that the sanding of the primer would make more dust than the air-assisted airless machine. But no, the phone is, I don't know, there's just not overspray with this guy. It's a great machine. So, Chad, how many hours is required to typically finish a set of standard cabinets? I will tell you two things about that. I spend somewhere between 30 and 40 hours in prepping a set of kitchen cabinets. That's me and all my apprentices put together. So if we got 3 to 4 guys in a 10-hour day, we can fully prep, ready to prime the room, the cabinets, the everything else. Prep is absolutely key because it takes no time to spray the top coat on this stuff. It's all in the prep. So before we even prime them, 30 to 40 hours of prep. And then with the Benjamin Moore Advance, observing the technical data sheets and the drying times, I can usually turn out a full kitchen from the second I walk in to the second where I reapply everything, usually about 6 days at the absolute minimum. Usually I give it an extra day baking in my shop. I can turn it on in about 7 working days. I finish the cabinet door. I mean, this takes absolutely nothing. In 1 day you can get this in a prime state with enough guys, and then a coat per day after that. So really, my portion in the house is done at 3 days or 4 days, and I take everything back to the shop and I spray everything flat. So I get a complete coat of primer on the doors, and then I apply top coat on the back, second top coat on the back, let that cure, night in between, and then first top coat on the front, second top coat on the front, usually let it cure another night in the shop so they're good for transportation, and then bring them back here. So yes, it's belt and suspenders and a little bit anal retentive, but like I said, when you're trying to eliminate everything you can do to get the finest finish for the homeowners, if they have to wait an extra day or two, I'm perfectly fine with it, and so are they, especially when my portion here is done after about 3 days. I can clean it all up, they can have their kitchen back, and then I just come and reinstall a couple days from then. Joe Rabideau, how much is the price of the pump and compressor? It's in the high 2000s, but certainly talk to your Sherwin-Williams rep. When I did mine, it was a pretty good discounted price, and they gave me a whole gunny sack full of tips and cleaning accessories and things like that. So it depends how hard you lean on your paint reps and your Graco reps as to how much you get. Just go to the shop or go wherever you spend the most money and use that leverage to get your best price. That's about the best I can help you out with. Does the Air Assist prime like a normal airless? Yeah, everything is exact. I didn't go over any of that stuff because all of us here know exactly what to do with a standard airless. You run the paint through the pump, you kick it out through the line. Once you get all the air out, you basically just add the compressed air to that once you dial in your standard airless. But thanks for the question, Stephen. Kevin, do you ever have an issue with masking blowing loose on the inside of your cabinets? Can you explain your technique for tape and masking of the door openings to protect the interiors? Yeah, I mean, it's basically, exactly what you see here. The only thing I might do different than a lot of other guys is I like to back the plastic off the front of the cabinets a little bit. So I take standard 2.5 inch blue masking tape, a very high quality one though, do a ring first after the shelves and the contents are removed, and then I apply my plastic one back. So I give myself an effective buffer of 4 to 5 inches with the plastic. I use the 3M plastic in the hand maskers. I find that super efficient. Now Those hand maskers are expensive, but they're super efficient. And it saves a lot of time on the job site, and you can get exact cutting instead of pulling out that huge roll of 9-foot painter's plastic and sawing at it with a rusty razor blade. This is much more efficient, and it's clean, and it doesn't waste a lot. And yes, the hand maskers cost more, and the plastic is a little more, but again, what's the question? Is it better for you, or is it better for the homeowner? Better for us to get cheap, visqueen or plastic, but you're going to waste a lot of labor. It's better for the homeowner if we get a high quality product and put it on quick and be efficient about it. The only thing I can tell you is, I press everything down with a utility knife or a painter's tool, and hope for the best. With the airless, you would get a little bit of ruffling here and there, but otherwise, with this air-assisted airless, it's puffing at almost half the pressure. So really, it's not even an issue. You barely get a lot of wagging with this stuff when you do it. So I don't know. We spent a lot of time prepping this stuff, and we really don't have any plastic come loose. So it's a huge pain. Like I said, if you spend the 30 to 40 hours, you just want to throw yourself out a window. You're spending so much time prepping. But once that prep is done, everything else is just a breeze. We're only here for half an hour, an hour at a time for a couple days, then we can go back to the shop and do that stuff. So if you have any more specific questions about that, Kevin, let me know. Kevin, what's the HVLP there for? Strictly to show you guys what an air-assisted airless is. I wanted to show you that the best explanation of an air-assisted airless machine, which can seem sort of magical, it basically is just an HVLP and it's just an airless, and you squish them together, and it's the best of both worlds. So I just wanted to illustrate that point for you there. Caesar, all right, thanks for the compliment, man, really appreciate it. And Chad, you as well, thank you guys for watching. Okay, thank you guys very much for tuning in here. If there's no other questions, I want to thank you guys for doing this. All of these videos will be archived at the Contractor College on the PDCA website. I am a relatively new member of the PDCA. I believe I've only been for a year or two now, and I'm slowly working my way through the Contractor College, and the farther I dig, the more interesting stuff that I'm finding in there. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. In particularly, I try to adjust, when I do these live in the field things, I try to address the most pressing questions that painters have, and I actually did a live estimate for a homeowner while doing this live, and it's all archived there. And then I answered questions for people after that based on that live estimate. So this is the sort of thing we're trying to bring contractors through the PDCA. There's a new executive director in the PDCA, and a lot of exciting things are happening right now. I, for one, am very interested to see what's happening this next year. But this Contractor College thing is just a wealth of knowledge, and like I said, you can kind of go down one of those rabbit holes of deeper and deeper down the level. It's a great resource, and as a contractor, check it out. If you guys have any other questions, certainly send it to the PDCA. You can also get through me on Instagram or Facebook, or hashtag anything Ask a Painter, and I will address that for you. So, means the world, guys. Thanks for watching this stuff, and hope you got something out of it. Thanks.